The eighth and final race weekend of the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup season in Lake Placid, New York, the venue for next year's World Championships. The double Olympic venue is always a demanding track on which to race, and the Arctic chill that swept through the region for the race weekend would add to that drama. Action started on Thursday morning with the men's skeleton. Vladislav Hereskevich of the Ukraine, off a 28th fastest start in the first heat, came down 7th quickest of all, going into the second, aiming for another top 6 to match his career best. This is a track that Vlad knows well and loves, and it showed. Kim Ji-soo of Korea, the leader at this stage, was left trailing in his wake as the Ukrainian blazed to the highest speed down at the bottom of the track to guarantee himself at least a top 7 finish. Vladislav was still in the lead as we got to the final 4 sliders, including Matt Weston. He knew that one good run in his second heat would be enough to take the World Cup crown. As points leader coming into Lake Placid race, Christopher Groothair had a nightmare. And so it proved, Weston hanging on to an early advantage. Down at the bottom of the track, though, his speed dropped away. Would it be enough just to hang on to the lead? Tied for 4th with Vladislav Hereskevich, Vlad's best ever World Cup result, and a crystal globe for Weston. Into the medals then, and Great Britain's Marcus Wyatt lay in 3rd place after the first of the 2 heats, 2/10 off the lead, but pulled out the fastest start of the competition in Heat 2 to really throw down a challenge to the remaining 2 sliders. With a handy advantage over Weston and Hereskevich, it looked as though he was unlikely to drop back. Now the question was, could he climb higher up the podium? Only 2/10 off the lead in the first heat, he laid down a blinding marker. Come and get me.
Everybody, see you soon. Good last run.
Italy's Amedeo Bagnis has 1 World Cup medal to his name, a gold in St. Moritz earlier in the season. Could he add to that? Only 11 hundredths off the first heat lead. He needed a good run, but too early on he was in red numbers. Before he got down to the bottom part of the track, it was clear that the speed was not on board the Italian sled. He would drop a spot. Still in the medals, his 2nd World Cup career medal would be no worse than a bronze, potentially maybe even a silver. Wyatt led from Bagnis with 1 to go. The final sled on ice was China's Ying Cheng. Ying has won the last 2 World Cup outings at Sigulda in Latvia and Altenburg in Germany, both of which are real rough, tough drivers' tracks. And so too is Lake Placid. You really have to steer your way down this track, and Ying did exactly that. Dropping back close to Marcus Wyatt at the bottom, but having just enough speed in hand through the chicane to carry him to the line a scant 400ths of a second clear. His 3rd consecutive win, and he moved up into 3rd in the overall season standings. His and China's first crystal globe. Yin Qing the winner from Marcus Wyatt and Amedeo Bagnis. Matt Weston tied for 4th with Vladislav Hereskevich. So as Yin won his 3rd career gold and the bronze medal in the World Cup chase, it was Matt Weston the champion ahead of the disappointed Christopher Groothair. A dramatic and exciting end to the men's skeleton race set mouths watering for the afternoon's final encounter in the Women's Skeleton World Cup. Into the final heat of the season, Germany's Jackie Pfeiffer, the best of the 4 German sliders, lying in a very strong 5th position. She might have had a chance to challenge for the top 3 in the overall World Cup standings if she hadn't been forced to miss out the first race in Beijing. But since coming back to the World Cup squad, Pfeiffer has shown that she is just as strong as ever she was. A top 5 finish, completing her season.
Danke fürs Zuschauen.
In fourth place, Katie Uhlaender, the world champion on this track in 2012, a World Cup winner in 2006 and 2007. But she hasn't had a World Cup race here since 2019. That didn't really show. Uhlaender was absolutely flying on a track she knows well. Not quite as quick through the chicane on the second trip down the mountain, but it was enough to put her in front of Pfeiffer with 3 to go. Would it be enough to take a medal? In the top 3, Kim Marmons lying second in the World Cup standings and looking to seal herself into that Crystal Globe winning position. A good strong first heat, another quick start in the second, and once more she looked in full control on her Bromley sled. Smooth, fast, everything you need down the rough Lake Placid track. It's a real driver's track, and she knows how to exert the speed across the line, 2400s up, denying Uhlaender a shot at the medals.
What a season! See you next year.
With 2 to go, we got to our World Cup points leader, Kimberly Boss. By making it into the second heat, she had sealed herself in as the World Cup champion. And that was probably just as well, because the second heat was not exactly vintage Boss. She's been in the top 3 in the World Cup overall standings for the previous 3 seasons, including winning it in 2021-22, and for the 4th year in a row, she's been a competitor at every race. 2 wins, 2 silvers, and now a 3rd medal guaranteed, a bronze at least for Kim Boss, and the World Cup title. And the final slider, America's Mystique Rowe. The push world champion last year, she wasn't in the World Cup team for the USA and couldn't slide in last year's World Cup race in December 23. This year, that's not an issue. Producing an even faster start in the second heat, she flew down the Lake Placid track, one that she knows superbly well. And even though she had a little skiddy chicane, she still had enough to hang on and claim her first ever World Cup win by just 0.02 of a second. Her first gold, adding to 2 silvers in a bronze in what's been a stellar season for Mystique Rowe, her first in the World Cup. And Kimberly Boss, the overall World Cup champion for the 2nd time in her career, ahead of Kim Marmons and Valentina Margalio. After snow and wind on Thursday, Friday morning dawned bright and relatively clear. No snow in the air and little wind as we got the bobsleigh competition underway with the women's monobob. Final run of the season, a debut season for Keisha Love of the USA. 5th place after the first heat with a brand new start record on her first run, and she lowered it by another 100th on the second getaway, trying to work her way back up towards the top of the pile. 4/10 off the lead from the first heat. She was driving superbly on the only track this season that she actually really knows. 2-time race winner already in Lillehammer and in La Plagne, and a top 5 finish on home ice guaranteed for Keisha Love. Next up, the Olympic champion in women's monobob and the world champion in women's monobob. 25-year-old from Germany, Laura Nolte, came in here 2nd in the World Cup standings, but at the head of a very tight pack. Only 4th place after the first heat, 1400ths off the lead, a 10th out of the medals, with an opportunity to move up and seal that Crystal Globe. But it slipped away from her on the second run, not as neat and tidy as she needed to be. She had just enough to get in front of Keisha Love, but was it enough for a medal? The top 3 after the first heat were covered by just 0.04 of a second. Canada's Cynthia Appia looked happy after the first run. The first time she looked happy stepping out of her monobob all season long. She's not had a medal this year. She had 5 last season, but that was all about to change. A good first heat and another good second heat with excellent starts from Appia meant that the Canadian would be in amongst the medals. She took the lead away from Laura Nolte And Appiah was delighted with her run.
Thanks everyone at home. Love you all.
The final two sleds of the season. Last time out in the World Cup in Altenburg, Alana Myers-Taylor had claimed her first Monobob World Cup medal. Then she went on to take silver in the World Championships just a couple of weeks later. Would she be able to claim her first win here on home ice? It was perhaps her best chance of the season, the track she knows better than the others, and she's in the best form she's been since the birth of her second child last summer. She had everything going for her, a good, strong run all the way to the line, piling the pressure on the first heat leader. 1 to go. Alana Myers-Taylor guaranteeing herself a second World Cup medal. 31-year-old Aussie Brianna Walker has had a medal in more than half of her previous 11 World Cup starts in women's monobob. She's a serial winner as well before the World Cup happened, but she's not yet claimed a World Cup gold. That was about to change. Not only did she manage to match the pace of Alana Myers-Taylor, but in the bottom half of the track she was flawless, driving away from her American rival. No sign of the nerves that had cost her a win in Altenburg a few weeks earlier. This was an exemplary performance of steely nerve determination for Brianna Walker as she claimed victory. Alana knew it, her coach Pierre Ludis knew it, but she didn't know it until finally her bobsleigh brakewoman held up the single digit. The dam has broken. Brianna Walker wins from Alana Myers-Taylor and Cynthia Appiah. And that win moves Brie up to second in the overall standings ahead of Lara Nolte. But with a sixth place finish, Lisa Buchwitz claims her first World Cup title. Drama at the end of the Monobob campaign, and there was likely to be more in store as well in the two-man competition's season finale. Lake Placid is a demanding track, and the very first sled down in the two-man race showed that. Boris Vatt and Antoine Rieu crashing out in curve 8 and 9. First sled down in the second heat, Austria's Jakob Mandelbauer also crashed, this time in 12:13. Both crews were okay. OK too, Switzerland's Mickey Vogt recovering and returning to the ice after a training crash in Altenburg left him concussed and out of action. With Andreas Haas behind him, he'd been in 5th place after the first of the two heats. But if he didn't finish ahead of Germany's Adam Amour, his crystal globe would slip from his grasp. The first run was good, the second was decent as well. It was enough to keep him in the hunt, ahead of then leader Chris Horn of the USA, who'd moved up from 10th place. Next up would be Frank Del Duca, the American with Manio Mitchell leading the Pan Am Championship for sliders from North and South America and the Caribbean. They had another great start and a good strong drive from Del Duca, but he couldn't quite match the pace that he found in the first heat, and the green numbers would turn red before the end of the run. He slipped behind Mickey Vogt into second place, still the Pan Am champion, but closer to the medals for Vogt. It all came down to Adam Amour and Benedikt Hertel. Third after the first heat, half a second off the lead. A win seemed unlikely, but for the 22-year-old driver, the reigning European champion, a chance to grab the crystal globe was definitely to be taken, and he seized it superbly. A great start from himself and his brakeman, and a nice, smooth drive put it beyond question. The World Championship silver medalist raced to his 6th medal in just 7 World Cup starts this season. Remarkable performance. And that left 2 at the top, both of whom are former winners on this track. Last year's winner was Johannes Lochner. He and Joshua Tascher were 1400ths off the lead after the first heat, but a stunning 5:06 start, the fastest of the competition, and superb driving from Johannes Lochner put victory in question. Would they be able to overhaul the first heat leader Francesco Friedrich and snatch a 3rd win in Lake Placid? He'd given it his best shot. Now it was down to Friedrich. The final run for Francesco Friedrich and Alexander Schuller. Friedrich with 3 golds, 2 silvers and a bronze in 12 races here in Lake Placid. Comfortably the most successful and most experienced of all in the field. And with a 5:05 start, even quicker than Lochner and Tasha, they certainly meant business. Friedrich was smoother again than in his first run, shot the chicane nicely and drove away to victory by a quarter of a second to claim his 4th win in Lake Placid, his 46th two-man victory and his 154th top-tier medal in total. Friedrich, Lochner and Amor locking out the podium, and it is Francesco Friedrich who wins the gold Crystal Globe as the season's champion from Johannes Lochner and Adam Amor. The final day of racing for the 2023-24 season, Saturday, and it was time for the women's bobsleigh to hit the ice in the morning. Second and deciding heat of the final race of the women's bobsleigh season, Melanie Hassler and Mara Morell for Switzerland in the top 6. A 6th place finish the previous year for Melanie Hassler, her best on this track. And she was looking to try and move herself ahead of the USA's leader, Keisha Love. Love, one of the stars of the season. But Hassler put down a beautiful second run, a nice clean shoot of the chicane, gave her the speed she needed at the bottom to grab the lead and guarantee herself another Lake Placid top 6. It was better than that because she was still the leader as we got to the top 4, Alana Myers-Taylor of the USA having dropped back. Olympic champion Lauren Alter, last year's World Cup winner, just needed to finish the run to seal the Crystal Globe as the season's champion, but she was looking to do better than that. She was only 800ths out of silver in the first heat, one of half a dozen sleds covered by under 2/10 battling for the podium. A good run to put her ahead of Hassler was all that she needed, and at the line she was 1500ths up. The Olympic champion led with 3 to go. Breaking up the German domination in the first heat, Great Britain's Adele Nicol and Kaya Placid. Adele driving in Lake Placid for the first time this season and her 4th World Cup start as a driver. A 19-year-old brakeman also in her 4th World Cup race. Little nervy at the top of the track, but she smoothed it out all the way down and drove like a Lake Placid veteran in a rented sled that she'd never seen before the start of the month. Adele Nicol driving herself into the medals. She held a lead early on and maintained it all the way to the line to guarantee the first British women's bobsleigh medal since the World Championships in 2009 and the second this century. Next up, silver medal after first heat. Lisa Buchwitz, the world champion, with Lauren Siebert behind her. Fastest start in the first heat, fastest start in the second heat. Surely nothing could go wrong. She had 600s in hand from the first heat over Adele Nicol and outstarted the British duo. But midway through the run, clearly she did not have the speed on board. It was going to be touch and go, and at the line, she was narrowly behind. As the British duo celebrated an incredible silver medal, celebrations too for Lisa Buchwitz. She claims a women's bobsleigh Crystal Globe as well. The final sled on ice, Kim Kilicki with Leonie Fiebig. Kilicki in the medals in the last 3 outings on this track, but none of them gold. With 4,700s in hand over the current leaders from Great Britain, it looks certain that Kim Kilicki and Leonie Fiebig, her long-term brakewoman, would power to gold, and so it proved. Kilicki driving the Lake Placid track like she was a native, denying all its traps and tribulations as she raced away to win by 0.8 of a second. The final win of the season going to Kim Kilicki and Leonie Fiebig. Adele Nicol and Kaya Placid claimed the silver in Lake Placid, but the top 3 in the World Cup standings, Lauren Alter, the champion, ahead of Kim Kilicki and Lisa Buchwitz. Plenty of reason for celebration on the final race podium of the year. Early afternoon and the four-man bobsleigh, the final encounter of the weekend. The Crystal Globes up for grabs. Adam Moore from Germany, World Championship bronze medalist in the four-man in his first race weekend in Lake Placid. Only his sixth four-man World Cup start with a good getaway 5:09 and more challenging to be among the front runners. Hasn't done the entire four-man season or the two-man, come to that, but has been one of the stars of the German programme. And Amor with a good run early in the heats, getting ahead of America's Frank Del Duca to take the early lead. Austria's Marcus Treichel finished 8th in Lake Placid last season with his regular crew Sascha Stepan, Markus Sammer and Christian Huber. Another strong start gave Treichel the opportunity to shine. The track has been fast, hard and tricky, and he managed to navigate the major dramas, heading down towards the chicane and getting a good fast run through. 100th in front into the final corners, but a double tap on the wall would see him drop just behind. Next led up, Germany's Francesco Friedrich. He's had 9 races here, but only in the last 2 has he even had a medal of any colour, and none of those have been a gold. Lake Placid is the one track on which he's raced where he has yet to win. Maybe the 10th one would be the charm. It was a good-looking run, a clean chicane, and enough speed to take the lead away from his teammate Adam Amor. Francesco Friedrich led midway through the first heat. In his 88th World Cup four-man, he was looking for his 55th medal and his 32nd win. Switzerland's Simon Friedli finished in 9th place in last season's race in Lake Placid, with Dominic Schleffer, Luca Rolli and Andy Haas behind him. A 5:12 getaway gave them a strong chance to be in contention. 5th time here for Friedli, but only his 2nd race as a driver. His 23rd in the four-man. He couldn't stay with the pace of Francesco Friedrich, dropping behind the German and teammate Adam Amor, down into 4th at the line. In 4 previous four-man World Cups on this track, Johannes Lochner has had just 1 medal, a silver in December 2019. This was his 59th four-man World Cup start, with the crew behind him giving him an epic getaway 5:02. He was in the mix right from the beginning. But again, the speed just drifted away from the sled early on. Mistakes in 7, 8 and 9. But a clean chicane allowing him to bring it back and challenge his teammate all the way to the line. It would be a close battle going into the second heat, 1700 separating the top 2. Final sled in the first heat, Taylor Austin of Canada, this relatively new young crew. Taylor had finished 6th in the previous year's race here in Lake Placid, but with only the 13th fastest start from his young crew, would he be able to have an effect on the 2024 race? Well, as the run progressed, clearly he would. Best speed of all into Shady, a good chicane, and then right at the bottom, coming a long way back from behind to put himself into a strong 5th position, tied with Simon Friedli. It looked like the second heat would have plenty going for it. But unfortunately, the weather gods had other ideas. The ice started to break up at the bottom of the track, both Simon Friedli and Marcus Treichel falling victim to it as it gouged their runners, and in the end there was no choice left for the jury. They had to cancel the second heat with just 3 sleds remaining, and the end result would be that of the first heat on its own. So Francesco Friedrich gets his first win in Lake Placid, ahead of teammates Johannes Lochner and Adam Amor, and that is enough to guarantee Francesco Friedrich the four-man Crystal Globe, ahead of Emil Tsepoulis and Johannes Lochner. A disappointing end to the season for the four-man crews and for the fans who'd come out to watch them. But that is it from the 2023-24 season. Next time when we return to Lake Placid, it will be for the World Championships. Before that, a whole season of racing. We'll see you then.